Hi there, and welcome to another Eurogamer Newscast. Sony has laid out its attempt at a Game Pass, and Nintendo has delayed Zelda. It's another week in the world of video games. My name is Tom Phillips, and joining me this week is Victoria Kennedy.
Hello.
And Ed Nightingale.
Hello.
Trusty Eurogamer news reporters who have been holding the fort spectacularly this week while I've been away. But a lot of this news, it's really big news again this week, has sort of filtered through, even though I was trying to stay off Twitter as much as possible. And of course, I think the biggest thing this week is PlayStation finally talking about its rebranded, revamped subscription service, which has been rumored for a long time. And they finally laid out exactly what it will look like this week. There are 3 tiers to it. Each has their own array of bits and pieces. Ed, you were on hand to cover this when the news broke a couple of days ago. What is in the 3 tiers? How do they differ from one another?
Great question. Great question. Essentially what they've done is they've taken the existing PS Plus and the existing PlayStation Now streaming service, and they have put them together and added some classic games. But what you get depends on the tier that you choose, and there are 3 tiers. The first is PlayStation Plus Essential, which is essentially the same as the existing PlayStation Plus. So you get the same benefits, which are monthly downloadable games, online multiplayer access, cloud storage for save games, and extra discounts in sales. And that costs $6.99 monthly or $49.99 yearly, which I believe is the same price as what it is. So basically that's not really changing. They're just calling it Essential. There's a second tier.
And if I have a PlayStation Plus subscription, that's what my current subscription just rolls into.
Exactly. PlayStation Plus Extra, which is all of that, plus a catalogue of 400 PS4 and PS5 games to download. Quote, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalogue and third-party partners. So it's Sony games and third parties. That comes in at $10.99 monthly and $83.99 yearly. So a fair bit more.
That's sort of equivalent to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate price tag.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, there is PlayStation Plus Premium, which goes even further, which adds an additional 340 games, which are PS3 games, classic PS1 games, PS2 games, PSP games, and it will also include time-limited game trials, so players can try before they buy. Anyone already on PlayStation Now will move on to that tier, and that costs $13.49 monthly or $99.99 a year. And that's a lot.
That's quite expensive. How does that catalogue differ from PlayStation Now? And what did Sony say when it announced all of this about these catalogues that it's talking about?
Also a good question. I actually haven't used PlayStation Now, so I'm not entirely sure of the difference. I don't know if it's literally the same games moving across. I kind of imagine so. If they're moving people who have signed up to Now across to that tier, surely it's going to be pretty similar. They haven't said a huge amount about what other games are going to be available. They haven't named too many, though they did say at launch the extra and premium tiers will have available Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal. So they did name those games in the PlayStation blog, but they haven't really said anything more about what classic games are going to be available. I think it's interesting that PSP is included as well, to get that in there. I'm not sure if that was on Now. Again, I haven't used Now. I haven't felt the need to use Now.
So.
This is terrible. I have a subscription at the moment, and I can't actually even remember what it is because I use it so infrequently. I don't know what I'd be getting moved over to because I can't remember what I am at the moment.
Now is a good time, everybody, to check your subscriptions and see what your. I mean, that's the value of subscriptions for both people who run them and people who pay for them. They're always there, but oftentimes you forget. I mean, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I watched something on Netflix. I've been going through Disney Plus recently, but I'm still paying. I'm still paying for Netflix every month. Yeah, it was interesting what they didn't say, and they didn't say, going forwards, at what point will new games join these PlayStation Plus tiers when they release, this year's God of War? How soon afterwards? What is the cadence of those new releases for them coming to PlayStation Plus?
I
Like
do wonder though if they're
premium.
being slightly more conservative with what they're saying now, so they can kind of like keep the hype train going, and then as we get closer to this makeover, switchover, whatever you want to call it, happening, we then will get told like, and you'll get God of War like 1 month after its first release or something, or it's something like, as in like Ragnarok, I should say. So I don't know if this is like an announcement that they're holding back on now to kind of keep momentum going, and then there might be. I mean, there's got to be more to it than what Ed's just read out because otherwise it's so underwhelming.
Yeah. They face a really difficult challenge marketing this by not being clear about exactly when new games will come to it. So, say what you like about Xbox first party exclusives, when and where they turn up, but you know that they will always be there on day one. And so, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, or if you want this game and think, it's probably the best way, the cheapest way, the easiest way for me to get this, to just subscribe rather than pay for Halo Infinite or Forza Horizon whenever they come around. Now, as someone who potentially, say I am thinking about buying God of War when it comes out, do I hold off on a pre-order? Do I buy it at launch? Do I wait? How long is it until this game is coming? What I take from that announcement, and the fact that they don't mention Horizon Forbidden West, is that when this launches this summer, that game won't be there. And so, maybe as you say, Victoria, they're saying that so that they can say it further down the line and not impact Horizon sales in the meantime. Because if you knew you were going to get Horizon as part of the subscription come summer, you might just wait until summer
Yeah.
to buy it or to play it. But if they do then say it down the line in summer, oh yeah, by the way, Horizon is included. That's a difficult thing to then have people who are like, well, I just bought it last week. Why didn't you tell me sooner? You gave the first details of this thing months ago, and you're not telling me that it's going to be included. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see how they address this in future. But do they say, there's a fixed time frame? It'll be 6 months. It'll be a year. Or do they not want to do that because any time frame that they give is extra time versus what Xbox does when it puts these things in there on day one?
I think that timing is going to be really key and really interesting because it's going to sort of prove, I guess, the value of that launch period. And they have added first-party games to PS Plus as like a free monthly game. Like they've done that in the past since PS3, PS4 days. But they obviously don't come up immediately. It's obviously I'm not sure if there is a standard time period there, but I think it's often at least a year after that initial release. And the only thing I am thinking is that of these the games that they have noted are coming at launch, Returnal is one of them, and that did come out, I think it was last May, I want to say, in which case that will have been a year since that's added. And the only other one, I guess, is Miles Morales, which would have been a year and a half since that came out. So I don't know if that's any kind of indication of, it will be a year after release that they'll get added, because that Returnal is is the most recent of those games that they have specifically mentioned.
They didn't mention Rift Apart, did they?
Nope.
No, they didn't. Yeah, I think that's a good shout, that sort of time frame would work. It's just it's a difficult. It's sort of confusing to me because you see these subscriptions as something that the core PlayStation subscriber, gamer, someone who is very likely to buy Sony first party games, they're the people that are going to be most likely to get these subscriptions. But you know, if you're waiting a year, then chances are, you know, what are there, 2, 3 big, like properly blockbuster PlayStation games out every year? These are games which people like that won't want to sit on. You know, they'll want to play Horizon when it comes out, God of War, and Ratchet 2. Like, these are the games that they bought their console for. Do they want to wait a year for it? And then if not, like, who is this subscription actually for?
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
it's an
the
odd
thing. It
one for
feels
me.
like in that sense, it's kind of for more casual PlayStation owners who don't
I was
want
gonna
to
say
jump in straight
casual owner.
away
Yeah.
and are happy to sort of wait and play things later on. But then equally, you've got this huge catalogue of classic PlayStation games from all these different consoles that surely is for hardcore PlayStation fans that really want to get to grips with the older catalogue games, on top of buying the
Yeah.
new game. So it's kind of like they're trying to please everyone and is just expecting everyone to pay lots of money.
What do you think about it,
Yeah.
Victoria? You said just now that it wasn't impressive for you.
Oh no, I find it very underwhelming, but I suppose I'm that PlayStation player or pick gamer, however you would call it, that I love Sony's first party games. Like, I love the Naughty Dog games, and if I knew that I was going to get like first dibs on, a potential Uncharted 5 or another The Last of Us, hands down, I would pay what needs paying for that privilege. But as it stands at the moment, I'm kind of it's a bit vanilla. Like, it's fine, but it's not going to be like, yeah, I'm going to get the essential or premium, whatever the top tier is. Like, there's nothing for me right now that says, yeah, they can have my money, take it. Whereas if they'd angled it, I hate making a comparison straight to Xbox Game Pass, because I know that they are two different things, and like, Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer have both talked about their service models, and they are not trying to be each other. But then when you see what you do get from Xbox Game Pass, it does kind of feel that Sony has dropped the ball here, I think.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I think just in terms of money, because at the end of the day, that is really very important. If you're buying a couple of big blockbuster PlayStation 5 games every year, a couple of games is 150 quid ish, and that's not a small amount of money. Add on an extra 100 or so for the subscription. Yeah, I don't know. I would really want to see what that catalog is. Maybe it's
Yeah.
in the third party games. Maybe they can try and rival the Xbox Game Pass sort of library there. And
I mean, I definitely play a lot more indie games and things on my Xbox because of the fact that they're more readily available on Games Pass. So if, Sony did come out with some third party games that were, ones that I might not necessarily buy day one but have kind of piqued my interest, then maybe I would look more into the subscription that they've proposed. But at the moment, I don't see the point.
I think that's a great point with the third party games, because I think people will focus very much on Sony's first party games. And I'm not surprised that they're not going to be on there. They've been saying for a long time they're not going to do that. So, they want to stick with their retail model. So I'm not surprised that they're not on there. But like you say, there is still room for third party games to be added, either day one or soon afterwards. I think that could be a really good outlet, like you say, with Game Pass for indie developers, to get their games on there. It could be that within that, what is it, 340 plus 400, like that's a lot of games. There could be some really strong third party games in there. If it's classic PS1 games, it's like, here, buy Crash Bandicoot for the 5th time after it's been re-released however many, or Tomb Raider, Wipeout, GT, like all those games that have been released on the PlayStation Classic console, that have been available to download for however long. Are people going to pay to access these again? I don't know if that's worth it, unless there are some nice hidden gems in there. But then I think third-party games could really bolster that, and make it a much more worthwhile proposition.
Yeah.
just going to have to wait and see, I suppose. And in the meantime, just focus on what we know, which is that £70 new releases will not be in there on day one. It was interesting to hear Jim Ryan speak a bit about that, and also his thoughts on live service games, which he sees as what will dominate over subscriptions in the future, that sustained engagement, as he put it. which also means sustained spending,
Mm-hmm.
will be the main thing that he wants to focus on. And I think that tallies with what we know of PlayStation's upcoming projects: 10 new live service game releases coming up in the next 5 years. Obviously, the purchase of Bungie to run Destiny 2 live service and get lots of money from that. Was there anything that stood out from Jim Ryan's comments to you, Ed? You wrote this story on what he said in the Games Industry Doctors interview this week.
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold. I feel like it's tempering expectations of this subscription service, as if to say, this isn't going all out Game Pass, which we know you want, and we're not giving it to you. It's kind of tempering expectations of what they're delivering. And then I also feel it's just backing up the points that they've made around live service games. They've just bought Bungie. They've said that they're going to be using their expertise to create live service games. We know there are 10 live service games coming. That's clearly where they're putting their money. And so I think he's just backing up that as a decision by the company. So I'm not necessarily surprised by the comments, but I think it tallies with what we know already. I'm not surprised by that, to be honest.
I'd be really fascinated to know if he's saying these things to sort of downplay the kind of mathematics that we've been doing right now, right? Which is, there are a couple of big blockbuster games per year. You're used to paying £70 for them. If these live service games do come out down the line and they're not £70, maybe that's him trying to sort of, lay the groundwork for that. If PlayStation puts out new, especially multiplayer live service IPs, we saw that they did this with Destruction All Stars, which launched through PlayStation Plus initially, anyway, as a free download. Maybe this is a suggestion that some of these new upcoming multiplayer IPs will be released with different value propositions, whether it's free to play or free through PlayStation Plus Premium down the line. Maybe that's another way of them looking at this. It'll be interesting to see.
I mean, it's interesting as well how, will those live service games be part of PS Plus in any way? Will we see Destiny 2 on PS Plus? That's a live service game. Does it get included in the subscription? What do people get with that? Do they end up paying extra for other things? Like, how do these things merge together? Just none of that's clear until we see it. I don't know if they would mix those things together, but I feel like my general overriding feeling about all of it is just it feels confusing and it feels convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I get that there are these two different projects and they're products and they're trying to merge them, or they are merging them, but the fact that there's then different tiers, it's not clear what you get with what thing. And I also appreciate that they're trying to give consumers choice and flexibility. And personally, I feel like consumers don't want choice. One of the successes, I think, of Game Pass is you pay one subscription and this is what you get. And it's really simple. You know exactly what you're going to get from that. You just pay your money. You're going to get all the games that you could possibly want. Done. Deal.
I hadn't
Take
thought
my
of it
money.
like that, but
I'm
yes.
happy with that.
Sony, just tell me what to do.
Whereas this is like, well, I want this, but I don't want that. So maybe I want that tier, but then I have to pay for this tier to get that. And it's just, I just feel like people are going to get really confused about what it is that they're paying for. Maybe I want the classic PlayStation games, but then I'm less interested in the PS4 and 5 games to download, for instance. But then I still have to pay for the premium, not the extra. So, like, why not just put everything in? I don't know. Go with everything. Put it in the middle tier as one subscription and be done with it. Even if you're not going to add your, first party games day one, fine. You've made that decision. I get that. That's your business decision. And if that's what you want to do, go for it. But to put all of these things in one subscription and just be done with it, to me, that makes more sense. And as a consumer, I know what I'm getting. Whereas this just feels really confusing.
Speaking for the people, Ed Nightingale.
I do my best.
Yeah, there is the side of it as well that, say you own these games on PS3 and you'd hope for some kind of good back compat service where you can just simply play the games that you had previously bought. Like on Xbox, you can just put in an Xbox 360 disc into the Xbox Series X and it just works. That this isn't a way to do that. You're paying for access to potentially games that you already own, just to be able to play them on the hardware that you also paid for in a subscription that you will pay more for. It's an interesting way to go about it. It's sort of a middle ground between Nintendo Switch Online, where you do get some extra bits and pieces, but it's mostly for people, I think, about the retro, and Xbox Game Pass, where you get bits and pieces, but it's mostly about the new games that come to the platform.
Equally, will Final Fantasy VII, the PS1 classic, be on there? Probably. Will I pay just to play that for the millionth time? Yes.
Would you still want it to come up with like the change the disc option?
Yeah, keep the joints.
And you can't continue unless you get up and actually go over to your telly.
Yeah. It's all a facade, but it's part of the nostalgic experience.
Exactly.
Well, that was fun, and it'll be interesting to hear more when we do. They didn't put a specific date on it, did they? They just said rolling out from this summer.
June.
So I don't
from June.
I don't know how much goes on behind the scenes because I've never worked for Sony, clearly. But do you think they felt they had to kind of say something because there were so many rumors and the rumors were starting to spiral out of control, and they realized that what people were starting to think they might get was nothing compared to what they actually had planned, and so they just had to kind of nip it in the bud and say, look, this is what you're getting?
The timing is very definitely because it's the end of the financial year and they'll be doing financial presentations and investors will be saying, as they have done previously, where's your Game Pass? We see that Microsoft is making a lot of money and doing very well with this. Why aren't you doing this? So they've left it until now, but they can now report this in their financial their profit forecast for the year. We expect this number of million people to subscribe to our subscription service. It will likely generate this amount of money. This is what we expect to earn 12 months from now. But yeah, it had been rumored for a very long time. The plans we heard a bit about last summer, and I think Sony have been trying to work out exactly what they want to include and what they should include for a while. Whether that rolls in their anime stuff, Fun Animation and Crunchyroll at the moment, no. Whether I think the retro game library is something that's interesting, and that will have taken a while to get up and running and tested, and there was likely a lot of technical stuff to work through there. I think that when Nintendo was rolling out its Switch Online, it was rumored for a while that they were going to be doing something, and then it took them internally a little while to sort of nail down exactly what they would be offering and the way that they would do it. So, yeah, you only get one chance to announce this stuff, and it feels like the announcement this week has been fairly... I don't see many people saying, I can't wait to subscribe. Where's the Fry from Futurama, take my money? I'm not seeing that level of excitement. I don't know if you guys have, from what you've seen around the internet this week, but
no,
it seems to be sort of...
to the point that it actually is almost already falling off my radar. Like
I've seen a lot of who's going to pay £100 for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people will inevitably draw comparisons. It doesn't mention anything to do with playing those PlayStation games which have come out on PC either, which of course is another strength of Xbox Game Pass. If you're paying for the more expensive Ultimate, you get the PC Game Pass in there too, so you're essentially getting two platforms worth of games rolled in. So, yeah. Well,
they want that money though, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Money makes the world go round.
Well, helping PlayStation shuffle all this stuff out of public consciousness this week was Nintendo, who predictably delayed Zelda. I think some of us were expecting this, some of us didn't want it to happen, but thought that it was relatively likely based on past form. What was the like I said, I was away this week. What was the mood like at Eurogamer when this news was announced?
I broke out a tiny violin
Saddened.
and just started playing it to myself in the corner. Especially as that morning, Ed and I had been talking about how we were so excited. And then Nintendo took it away.
Yeah. So they've said, just to recap for anyone unaware, it's now coming spring 2023. They need a bit more time because it's such an ambitious project and that they are doing new things with gameplay and stuff like that. They put out a brief statement from IG Inuma, Zelda boss at Nintendo, and they showed a little bit of footage. And that was it, really. Again, I think an announcement timed at the end of their financial year so that they can say to investors, this is what we expect from each quarter. But if they're talking spring 2023, potentially still within this financial year, or maybe, Victoria, when do you expect spring 2023 to actually result in a Zelda game? Are we talking January here? Are we talking May? What do you expect?
So the way my head calendar works, spring would be March, April, May. Is the 3 months of spring. I don't know. Breath of the Wild was a March release, wasn't it? So was Breath of the Wild a March release?
Yes, it
was. So that could be quite nice if they had some like anniversary symmetry with Breath of the Wild 2, whatever we're dubbing it.
I think March the 3rd is... Oh, I heard that March the 3rd is when Breath of the Wild came out, and that is a Friday next year, so it would make sense as a release date.
Not that Ed's checked. Yeah, so...
Look, the thing with this is that there are now so many rumours and theories about why this has happened, what gameplay is there... You know, are they making it an anniversary with the same date? I heard people saying, is there a Switch 2 coming, and that they've delayed the console and therefore they're delaying the game as a launch game for it. There are so many rumors.
I don't think the console rumors would be true because they've already said, well, in February they said that, you know, the Switch is still in the middle of its life cycle. So I don't think the Switch console rumors are true. But yeah, I think a March release date to sort of mirror that of Breath of the Wild would be quite nice. She says very hopefully.
It'll be 6 years, I guess, from the Switch's launch.
2017, yeah.
Which I also heard is the longest between home console Zeldas.
Ooh.
Well, what did we learn from the trailer that they showed? There was one small clip of a sword that I've seen has got people very excited.
Don't downplay
Victoria,
it. That was the Master Sword. That was
a sword?
Just a sword.
It was a pretty janky looking Master Sword.
I know. So what does it mean for
the story? It looked a bit rusted, didn't it? What was going on?
Well, see, I've seen theories about this one as well, and so I've seen theories about how like bits of the Master Sword are now going to be scattered across Hyrule in time and space, and so like part of the quest is rebuilding the Master Sword and then like strengthening the space-time continuum of Hyrule. And then I've seen other people, namely Martin, saying that Fi is going to be coming back out the sword, which is...
Oh, God.
I hope not.
Which, if it is, Nintendo, please abort.
Was it Fi or Fee? I always called her Fee.
I think I called her Fi. Yeah.
I called her other things entirely, but...
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure Nintendo...
It's a family podcast, Victoria.
That's why I've not said what I was going to... I can tell you guys after this is ended. I think it was Fi, but... Fi or Fee? Whatever it is, she's annoying.
Then again, I called Navi Navy as a kid because I didn't realise it was Navigate. So that went over my head.
In the
and
Navy.
I called her Navy.
You can sail the 70s.
Exactly.
Oh, Link, I used to be a seafaring fairy. How times have changed.
From Wind Waker.
I do kind of hope the story isn't just rebuild the Master Sword, because that has been done in other Zelda games, and I'm hopeful that they're going to do something more than that. And I guess in some ways the delay is interesting, with it being, like you said, 6 years. I think the only other kind of direct sequel has been Majora's Mask, I think.
Oh, Phantom
And
Hourglass.
that came out very soon after Ocarina of Time, and obviously was reusing assets. And I love that it was kind of taking the familiar and putting a weird twist on it. And I sort of hoped that this sequel would be like the Majora's Mask equivalent. But the fact that they're taking so long over it makes me think, okay, this isn't just, using the same game world and the same assets to do something new, that they are doing something quite considerably different that is taking this much time.
See, that also, like in the delay announcement, they did mention about the fact that there were other gameplay elements, and they said, like, we've shown you the fact that you're going to be in the skies above, and we've seen bits of Hyrule. So I think there's going to be a whole other there's going to be a whole other bit that we've not seen at all yet. That is going to be part of the final game. I think they're sort of alluding to that.
Do we think that the Sky World is going to be the same time, or is it going to be you're in the sky at one point?
I think it's part of the spirit realm.
To the ground.
That's my theory. I think so. If you see in I think it's the Game Awards trailer, there's like some lotuses or something on the pedestals, and like the lotus is being kind of linked to being part of the spirit realm, and that's where the dragons go. The dragons that roam around Breath of the Wild, they like disappear up into portals, and so I think that's like part of the spirit realm up there that can only be seen after a certain event.
Interesting.
Well, there's lots of time for theories to come, since we'll be waiting potentially another 12 months, potentially even more than another 12 months for it to come out. But
no, it'll just be 12 months.
I think Nintendo as well.
I said it's just going to be 12 months. I've said March because that's the earliest it can be in spring.
I think Nintendo, as much as it will annoy people that they're not going to get a Zelda game this year and they'll have to wait a bit longer, they know that people will buy it whenever it comes out, and they have, I think, they're going to have quite a strong 2022 anyway. There's the big Pokemon games out this Christmas. We already know that they're dated for then. The first of a new generation. They will sell extremely well, and
it's a Splatoon as well.
I'm sure there's more to come that we don't know about yet. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff which they haven't really talked about, but we know is sort of on the horizon. Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, Splatoon 3,
Bayonetta 3.
Bayonetta 3, what's happening with Metroid, and Advance Wars potentially still at some point.
And maybe now they'll just give us that Zelda re-release that we all want.
Well, that's an interesting point, isn't it? Or did they? I don't think that they would push back Breath of the Wild 2 to try and shift something this Christmas, but there have been persistent rumors of Twilight Princess, Wind Waker coming to Switch at some point. And, if you put them out in September, October time, just like Pokemon did last year with Shining Diamond, Brilliant Pearl, November time, Arceus in January, that certainly did not hurt Arceus' sales when those games came out and sort of had something for people to whet their appetites for before the big new release to tide people over through Christmas. Yeah, it's a win-win.
We can hope.
What are your...
I'm just hopeful for playable Zelda. That's all I want.
Come on, playable Zelda.
I just think now is the time.
I hope so. I think the time has come.
And I really love when Nintendo have those more cooperative dungeons. Speaking of Wind Waker, okay, playing the tune every time to control them is annoying, but sort of going through a dungeon with two characters and using that to do puzzles, if that was Link and Zelda on an adventure together, that's the dream. Just give me that.
But then would you have to add voice acting for Link?
Maybe. No.
It doesn't have a voice box.
It doesn't have a voice box? Is this canon?
He just nods. And
no,
grunts. He does. He grunts. Sorry.
Yeah. Link grunts. Zelda can speak. Maybe the second playable character isn't Zelda. Maybe it's Fi.
Why do we keep going back to her?
With the sword.
No.
You have to hop along the ground.
Just jumping.
Oh, no.
Well, to be fair, in the Hyrule Warriors games, you do play as Fi, and you also play as Zelda. So it's been done.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I just want to play as the sword. That is the ultimate in like damage mechanics for the weaponry. People complain so much about Breath of the Wild's weapon durability that in Breath of the Wild 2, you play as a weapon which has limited durability, and you saw it all rusted up. That was you after like 30 hours of questing,
Can you
not
imagine,
having had any
Link, there's a
stew to heal yourself.
95% chance I'm stuck in this crack. Please, help me, Link.
Was that Zelda? Or was that
No,
Fee?
no, thank you.
That was 100% fee.
Right. That's probably a good point to leave this and wrap things up. But thank you again for joining us, both of you. And thank you if you've got this far while watching. Much appreciated. We will join you soon for more PlayStation news and maybe some news of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker and whatever else Nintendo has to come. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I've been Tom Phillips, and my Twitter handle is TomPhillipsEG. Do you both want to share yours? Ed?
Oh, okay then. I was going to say ladies first.
So did I.
Ed Nightingale at Ed_Nights with an N.
Victoria?
I'm a little chop shop gal.
Awesome. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.